Sam, let's now take a look at the SAT Digital Practice Test Module 1 that you just completed. While reading through the text, you can modify your answers. Sam, when we read through the answers for each question, please double-check your answers. Also, Sam, feel free to highlight any important questions, and we will review them together. I'll explain why the selected answer is correct.
Sam, let's now take a look at the SAT Digital Practice Test Module 1 that you just completed. While reading through the text, you can modify your answers. Sam, when we read through the answers for each question, please double-check your answers. Also, Sam, feel free to highlight any important questions, and we will review them together. I'll explain why the selected answer is correct.
Sam, let's now take a look at the SAT Digital Practice Test Module 1 that you just completed. While reading through the text, you can modify your answers. Sam, when we read through the answers for each question, please double-check your answers. Also, Sam, feel free to highlight any important questions, and we will review them together. I'll explain why the selected answer is correct. SAT Digital Test Module 1 Module 1 Reading and Writing 33 Questions to Dictions. The questions in this section address a number of important reading and writing skills. Each question includes one or more passages, which may include a table or graph. Read each passage and question carefully, and then choose the best answer to the question based on the passage's. All questions in this section are multiple choice with 4 answer choices. Each question has a single best answer. 1. As Mexico's first president from an indigenous comedy, Benito Juarez became one of the most figures in his country's history. Among the many significant accomplishments of his long tenure in office, 1858-1872, Juarez consolidated the authority of the national government and advanced the rights of indigenous peoples. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? A. Unpredictable importance, secretive, ordinary. 2. Due to their often strange images, highly experimental syntax, and opaque subject matter, many of John Ashbery's poems can be quite difficult to know and thus are the object of heated debate among scholars. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? A delegative composite interpreted renounce unauthorized copying or reuse of any part of this page is illegal. 2. Continue Module 1. 3. The Cambrian explosion gets its name from the sudden appearance and rapid diversification of animal remains in the fossil record about 541 million years ago, during the Cambrian period. Some scientists argue that this change in the fossil record might be because of a shift in many organisms' body types that were more likely to be preserved. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? A catastrophic, elusive, abrupt, imminent. 4. During a 2014 archaeological dig in Spain, Vicente Lull and his team uncovered the skeleton of a woman from El Algar, an early Bronze Age society, buried with valuable objects signaling a high position of power. This finding may persuade researchers who have argued that Bronze Age societies were ruled by men to that women may have also held leadership roles. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? A wave of considered refuted require 5 within baleen whale species. Some individuals develop an accessory spleen, a seemingly functional formation of splenetic tissue outside of the normal spleen. Given the formation's greater prevalence among whales known to make depuratives, some researchers hypothesize that its role isn't. Rather, the accessory spleen may actively support diving mechanisms. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? A replicable predetermined operative to latent 6. According to a tax policy expert, state taxes are other factors when considering an interstate move. Even significant differences in state taxation have almost no effect on most people's decisions, while differences in employment opportunities, housing availability, and climate are strong influences. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? A consistent with Representative OFC overshadowed BYD irrelevant unauthorized copying or reuse of any part of this page is illegal. 3. Continue Module 17. The author's claim about the relationship between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens is, as it fails to account for several recent archaeologicalisis. To be convincing, his argument would need to address recent finds of additional hominid fossils, such as the latest Denisovan specimens and Domo longi. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? A disorienting, tenuous, nuanced, unoriginal 8. The following text is from Georgia Douglas Johnson's 1922 poem, Benediction. Go forth, my son, winged by my heart's desire. Great reaches, yet unknown, await for your possession. I may not, if I would, retrace the way with you, my pilgrimage is through, but life is calling you. Which choice best states the main purpose of the text? A. To express hope that a child will have the same accomplishments as his parent did, to suggest that raising a child involves many struggles. To warn a child that he will face many challenges throughout his life, to encourage a child to embrace the experience life will offer. 9. The following text is adapted from Indian Boyhood, a 1902 memoir by Oyesa Charles A. Eastman, Asante Dakota writer. In the text, Oyesa recalls how women in his tribe harvested maple syrup during his childhood. Now the women began to test the trees, moving leisurely among them, axe in hand, and striking a single quick blow, to see if the sap will appear. The trees, like people, have their individual characters. Some were ready to yield up their lifeblood, while others were more reluctant. Now, one of the Birken basins was set under each tree, and a hardwood chip driven deep into the cut which the axe had made. From the corners of this chip at first drop by drop, then more freely the sap trickled into the little dishes. Which choice best describes the function of the underlined sentence in the text as a whole? A. It portrays the range of personality traits displayed by the women as they work. B. It foregrounds the beneficial relationship between humans and maple trees. C. It demonstrates how human behavior can be influenced by the natural environment. D. It elaborates on an aspect of the maple trees the women evaluate. Unauthorized copying or reuse of any part of this page is illegal. For Continue Module 110 Text 1, ecologists have long wondered how thousands of microscopic phytoplankton species can live together near ocean surfaces, competing for the summer sources. According to conventional wisdom, one species should emerge after outcompeting the rest. So why do so many species remain? Ecologists manufacturers to explain this phenomenon still haven't uncovered a satisfactory explanation. Text 2 ecologist Michael Barenfeld and colleagues have connected phytoplankton's diversity to their microscopic size. Because these organisms are tiny, they are spaced relatively far apart from each other in ocean water and, moreover, experience that water as a relatively dense substance. This in turn makes it hard for them to move around and interact with one another. Therefore, says Barenfeld's team, direct competition among phytoplankton probably happens much less than previously thought. Based on the texts, how would Barenfeld and colleagues' text 2 most likely respond to the conventional wisdom discussed in text 1? A. By arguing that it is based on a misconception about phytoplankton species competing with one another. By asserting that it fails to recognize that route and replenishment of ocean nutrients prevents competition between phytoplankton species. By suggesting that their own findings help clarify how phytoplankton species are able to compete with larger organisms. By recommending that more ecologists focus their research on how competition among phytoplankton species is increased with water density. 11 In 2014, Amelia Kwan and her team at NASA set out to build a helicopter capable of flying on Mars. Because Mars's atmosphere is only 1% as dense as Earth's, the air of Mars would not provide enough resistance to the rotating blades of a standard helicopter for the aircraft to stay aloft. For 5 years, Kwan's team tested designs in a lab that mimic Mars's atmospheric conditions. The craft the team ultimately designed can fly on Mars because its blades are longer and rotate faster than those of a helicopter of the same size built for Earth. According to the text, why would a helicopter built for Earth be unable to fly on Mars? A. Because Mars and Earth have different atmospheric conditions, because the blades of helicopters built for Earth are too large to work on Mars, because the gravity of Mars is much weaker than gravity of Earth, because helicopters built for Earth are too small to handle the conditions on Mars. Unauthorized copying or reuse of any part of this page is illegal. 5. Continue Module 112. In West Africa, Jalis have traditionally been keepers of information about family histories and records of important events. They have often served as teachers and advisors, too. New technologies may have changed some aspects of the role today, but Jalis continue to be valued for knowing and protecting their people's stories. Which choice best states the main idea of the text? A. Even though there have been some changes in their role, Jalis continue to preserve their community's histories. B. Although Jalis have many roles, many of them like teaching best. C. Jalis have been entertaining the people within their communities for centuries. D. Technology can now do some of the things Jalis used to be responsible for. 13. In 1934, physicist Eugene Wigner posited the existence of a crystal consisting entirely of electrons in a honeycomb-like structure. The so-called Wigner crystal remained largely conjecture, however, until Feng Wang and colleagues announced in 2021 that they had captured an image of one. The researchers strapped electrons between two semiconductors and then cooled the apparatus, causing the electrons to settle into a crystalline structure. By inserting an ultra-thin sheet of graphene above the crystal, their researchers obtained an impression, the first visual confirmation of the Wigner crystal. Which choice best states the main idea of the text? A. Researchers have obtained the most definitive evidence to date of the existence of the Wigner crystal. B. Researchers have identified an innovative new method for working with unusual crystalline structure. C. Graphene is the most important of the components required to capture an image of a Wigner crystal. D. It's difficult to acquire an image of a Wigner crystal because of the crystal's honeycomb structure. Unauthorized copying or reuse of any part of this page is illegal. 6. Continue 7654321 average number of individual portment directly to CEOs. If O. Years Managers Department Leaders Module 114 considering a large sample of companies, economics experts Maria Guadalupe, Julie Wolfe, and Draguram Ryan assessed the number of managers and leaders from different departments who reported directly to a Chief Executive Officer CEO. According to the researchers, the findings suggest that across the years analyzed, there was a growing interest among CEOs in connecting with more departments in their companies. Which choice best describes data from the graph that support the researchers' conclusion? A. The average numbers of managers and department leaders reporting directly to their CEO didn't fluctuate from the 1991 to 1995 period, the 2001 to 2008 period. B. The average number of managers reporting directly to their CEO was highest in the 1996 to 2001 period. C. The average number of department leaders reporting directly to their CEO was greater than average number of managers reporting directly to their CEO in each of the 3 periods studied. D. The average number of department leaders reporting directly to their CEO rose over the 3 periods studied. Unauthorized copying or reuse of any part of this page is illegal. 7. Continue Module 115. When digging for clams, their primary food, sea otters damage the roots of eelgrass plants growing on the seafloor. Near Vancouver Island in Canada, the otter population is large and well established, yet the eelgrass meadows are healthier than those found elsewhere off Canada's coast. To explain this, conservation scientist Aaron Foster and colleagues compared the Vancouver Island meadows to meadows where otters are absent or were reintroduced only recently, finding that the Vancouver Island meadows have a more diverse gene pool than the others do. Foster hypothesized that damage to eelgrass roots increases the plant's rate of sexual reproduction. This, in turn, boosts genetic diversity, which benefits the meadow's health overall. Which finding, if true, would most directly undermine Foster's hypothesis? A. At some sites in the study, eelgrass meadows are found near otter populations that are small and have only recently been reintroduced. B. At several sites not included in the study, There are large, well-established sea otter populations but no eelgrass meadows. C. At several sites not included in the study, eelgrass meadows' health correlates negative lie with the length of residence and size of otter populations. D. At some sites in the study, the health of plants unrelated to eelgrass correlates negatively with length of residence and size of otter populations. 16 scholars have noted that F. Scott Fitzgerald's writings were likely influenced in part by his marriage to Zelda Fitzgerald, but many don't recognize Zelda as a writer in her own right. Indeed, Zelda authored several works herself, such as the novel Save Me Thewels and numerous short stories. Thus, those who primarily view Zelda as an inspiration for F. Scott's writings, which choice most logically completes the text, overlook the many other factors that motivate F. Scott to write. B. Risk misrepresenting the full range of Zelda's contributors to literature. C. May draw inaccurate conclusions about how Scott and Zelda viewed each other's works. D. Tend to read the works of F. Scott and Zelda in an overly autobiographical light. Unauthorized copying or reuse of any part of this page is illegal. 8. Continue Module 117 among social animals that care for their young, such as chickens, macaque monkeys, and humans. Newborns appear to show an innate attraction to faces and face-like stimuli. Elisabetta Versace and her colleagues used an image of 3 black dots arranged in the shape of eyes and a nose, or mouth to test whether this trait also occurs in testido tortoises, which live alone and do not engage in parental care. They found that tortoise hatchlings showed a significant preference for the image, suggesting that which choice most logically completes the text. A face-like stimuli are likely perceived as harmless by newborns of social species that practice parental care, but as threatening by newborns of solitary species without parental care. B. Researchers should not assume that an innate attraction to face-like stimuli is necessarily an adaptation related to social interaction or parental care. C. Researchers can assume that the attraction to face-like stimuli that is seen in social species that practice parental care is learned rather than innate. D. Newly hatched testudo tortoises show a stronger preference for face-like stimuli than adult testudo tortoises do. 18. Compiled in the late 1500s largely through the efforts of indigenous scribes. Cantares Mexicanos is the most important collection of poetry in Clasical, the principal language of the Aztec Empire. The poems portray Aztec society before the occupation of the empire by the army of Spain, and marginal notes in Cantares Mexicanos indicate that much of the collection's content predates the initial invasion. Nonetheless, some of the poems contain inarguable references to beliefs and customs common in Spain during this era. Thus, some scholars have concluded that which choice most logically completes the text, while its content largely predates the invasion. Cantares Mexicanos also contains additions made after the invasion. B. Although those who compiled Cantares Mexicanos were fluent in Nahuatl, they had limited knowledge of the Spanish language. C. Before the invasion by Spain, the poets of the Aztec Empire borrowed from the literary traditions of other societies. D. The references to beliefs and customs in Spain should be attributed to a coincidental resemblance between the societies of Spain and the Aztec Empire. 19. In a study of the cognitive abilities of white-faced Capian monkeys, Cebu's imitator. Researchers neglected to control for the physical difficulty of the tasks they used to evaluate the monkeys. The cognitive abilities of monkeys given problems requiring little dexterity, such as sliding a panel to retrieve food, were judged by the same criteria as were those of monkeys given physically demanding problems, such as unscrewing a bottle and inserting a straw. The results of the study, therefore, which choice most logically completes the text, could suggest that there are differences in cognitive ability among the monkeys even though such differences may not actually exist. B. Are useful for identifying tasks that the monkeys lack the cognitive capacity to perform, but not for identifying tasks that the monkeys can perform. C. Should not be taken as indicative of the cognitive abilities of any monkey species other than imitator. D. Reveal more about the monkey's cognitive abilities when solving artificial problems than when solving problems encountered in the wild. 20. To survive when water is scarce, embryonide African turquoise killifish eggs. A dormant state known as diapause. In this state, embryonic development is paused for as long as twice longer than the lifespan of an adult killifish. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of Standard English? A interb to interc having entering 21 formed in 1967 to foster political and economic stability within the Asia-Pacific region. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations was originally made up of 5 members: Thailand, the Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia. By the end of the 1990s, the organization, its initial membership, which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of Standard English? A has doubled, had doubled, C doubles, will double 22. The intense pressure found in the deep ocean can affect the structure of proteins in fish's cells, distorting the protein's shape. The chemical trimethyl N oxide TMAO counters this effect, ensuring that proteins retain their original is found in high concentrations in the cell's oft deepest dwelling fish. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of Standard English? A configurations. TMOB configurations to mock configurations, mod configurations, and unauthorized copying or reuse of any part of this page is illegal. 10 Continue Module 1. 23 Food and the Sensation of Taste are central to Monique Truong's novels. In the Book of Salt, for example, the exiled character of BNH connects to his native Saigon through the food he prepares, while in Bitter in the Mouth, the character of Linda, a form of synesthesia whereby the words she hears spoke tastes. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of Standard English? A experienced had experienced will be experiencing 24. Inventor John Friedman created a prototype of the first flexible straw by inserting a screw into a paper straw and, using dental floss, binding the straw tightly around it. When the floss and screw were removed, the resulting corrugations in the paper allowed the straw to bend easily over the edge of a glass. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of Standard English? A screws threads. B screws threads. C screws threads. D screws threads. 25. In her analysis of Edith Wharton's The House of Mirth 1905, scholar Candace Wade observes the novel depicts the upper classes of New York City as consumed by the appetite of a soulless and apt assessment given that The House of Mirth is set during the Gilded Age, a period marked by rapid industrialization, economic greed, and widening wealth disparities. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of Standard English? A materialism. And materialism, and materialism, dematerialism. 26 To humans, it does not appear that the golden orb weaver spider uses camouflage to capture its. The brightly colored arachnid seems to wait conspicuously in the center of its large circular web for insects to approach. Researcher Po Peng of the University of Melbourne has explained that the spider's distinctive coloration may in fact be part of its appeal. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of Standard English? A pray rather, B pray rather, C pray rather, D pray rather. Unauthorized copying or reuse of any part of this page is illegal. 11 Continue Module 1 to 7. In Death Valley National Park's racetrack playa, a flat, dry lakebed, are 162 rocks, some weighing less than a pound, but others almost 700 pounds, that move periodically from place to place, seemingly off to your own volition. Racetrack-like trails in the mysterious migration. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of Standard English? Applies sediment mark the rocks, plies sediment mark the rocks, plies sediment mark the rocks, plies sediment mark the rocks. 28. In crafting her fantasy fiction, Nigerian-born Britisher Helen Iemi has drawn inspiration from classic 19th-century fairy tales of the Brothers Grimm. Her 2014 novel Boy, Snow, Bird, for instance, is a complex retelling of the story of Snow White, while her 2019 novel offers a delicious twist on the classic tale of Hansel and Gretel. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of Standard English? A gingerbread, B gingerbread, C gingerbread, gingerbread. 29. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. NASA uses rovers, large remote vehicles with wheels, to explore the surface of Mars. NASA's rovers can't explore regions inaccessibly to wheeled vehicles. Rovers are also heavy, making them difficult to land on the planet's surface. Microprobes, robotic probes that weigh as little as 50 milligrams, could be deployed virtually anywhere on the surface of Mars. Microprobes have been proposed as an alternative to rovers. The student wants to explain an advantage of microprobes. Which choice most effectively use relevant information from the notes to accomplish goal? A. Despite being heavy, NASA's rovers can land successfully on the surface of Mars. B. Microprobes, which weigh as little as 50 milligrams, could explore areas of Mars that are inaccessible to NASA's heavy-wheeled rovers. C. NASA currently uses its rovers on Mars, but microprobes have been proposed as an alternative. D. Though they are different sizes, both microprobes and rovers can be used to explore the surface of Mars. Unauthorized copying or reuse of any part of this page is illegal. 12. Continue Module 130. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. Abdulrazak Gurna was awarded the 2021 Nobel Prize in Literature. Gurna was born in Zanzibar in East Africa and currently lives in the United Kingdom. Many readers have singled out Gurna's 194 book Paradise for praise. Paradise is a historical novel about events that occurred in colonial East Africa. The student wants to introduce Paradise to an audience unfamiliar with the novel and its author. Which choice most effectively uses relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal? A. Abdulrazak Gurna, who wrote Paradise and later was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature, was born in Zanzibar in East Africa and currently lives in the United Kingdom. B. Many readers have singled out Abdulrazak Gurna's 1994 book Paradise, a historical novel about colonial East Africa, for praise. C. A much-praised historical novel about colonial East Africa, Paradise 1994, was written by Abdulrazak Gurna, winner of the 2021 Nobel Prize in Literature. D. Paradise is a historical novel about events that occurred in colonial East Africa, Abdulrazak Gurna's homeland. 31. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. Ulaanbaatar is the capital of Mongolia. The city's population is 907,802. Ulaanbaatar contains 31.98% of Mongolia's population. Hanoi is the capital of Vietnam. The city's population is 7,781,631. Hanoi contains 8.14% of Vietnam's population. Which choice most effectively uses information from the given sentences to emphasize the relative sizes of the capital's populations? Mongolia's capital is Ulaanbaatar, which has 907,802 people, and Vietnam's capital is Hanoi, which has 7,781,631 people. B. The populations of the capitals of Mongolia and Vietnam are 907,802 Ulaanbaatar and 778,1631 Hanoi, respectively. C. Even though Hanoi population 7,781,631 is larger than Ulaanbaatar population 907,802, Ulaanbaatar accounts for more of its country's population. D. Comparing Vietnam and Mongolia, 7,781,631 is 8.14% of Vietnam's population, and 907,802 is 31.98% of Mongolia's. Unauthorized copying or reuse of any part of this page is illegal. 13. Continue Module 132. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. One of history's greatest libraries was the House of Wisdom in Baghdad, Iraq. It was founded in the 8th century with the goal of preserving all the world's knowledge. Scholars at the House of Wisdom collected ancient and contemporary texts from Greece, India, and elsewhere and translated them into Arabic. Writings included those of the Greek philosopher Aristotle and the Indian mathematician Abhidhabha. The House of Wisdom used Chinese papermaking technically to create paper versions to be studied and shared. The student wants to explain how the House of Wisdom preserved the world's knowledge. Which choice most effectively uses relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal? A. The House of Wisdom was known for bringing together knowledge from around the world, including from Greece, India, and China. B. Founded in Iraq in the 8th century, the House of Wisdom employed many scholars as translators. C. Writings from the Greek philosopher Aristotle and the Indian mathematician Aryabhata were preserved at the House of Wisdom. D. The House of Wisdom collected writings from different countries and created paper versions in Arabic to be studied and shared. 33. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. British musicians John Lennon and Paul McCartney shared writing credit for numerous Beatles songs. Many Lennon-McCartney songs were actually written by either Lennon or McCartney, not Bibbith. The exact authorship of specific parts of many Beatles songs, such as the verse for In My Life, is disputed. Mark Glickman, Jason Brown, and Ryan Song used statistical methods to analyze the musical content of Beatles songs. They concluded that there is 18.9% probability that McCartney wrote the verse for In My Life, stating that the verse is consistent with Lennon's songwriting style. The student wants to make a generalization about second of study conducted by Glickman, Brown, and Song. Which choice most effectively uses relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal? A. Based on statistical analysis, Glickman, Brown, and Song claim that John Lennon wrote the verse of In My Life. B. There is only an 18.9% probability that Paul McCartney wrote the verse for In My Life. John Lennon is the more likely author. C. It is likely that John Lennon, not Paul McCartney, wrote the verse for In My Life. D. Researchers have used statistical methods to address questions of authorship within the field of music. Answer key with explanation of each correct option. Question 1. B. Importante Benito Juarez was the first indigenous president of Mexico, and his tenure significantly shaped the country's history. His work consolidated the authority of the national government and advanced the rights of indigenous peoples. These actions indicate that he was a crucial figure, not unpredictable, secretive, or ordinary. The term important best reflects his lasting impact. Question 2. C. Interpretation Ashbery's poetry is known for its complex syntax and abstract subject matter, making it difficult to understand or interpret. Scholars debate its meaning because of the challenges posed by his unique style. The other choices delegate, compose, renounce don't fit with the idea of engaging with the meaning of the poetry. Question 3. C. Abrupt The Cambrian explosion refers to the rapid diversification of life forms about 541 million years ago. Abrupt suggests a sudden and significant change in the fossil record, which is consistent with the idea of a quick appearance of many new species. The other choices don't accurately capture the swift nature of this event. Question 4. B. Consider the discovery of a woman's skeleton buried with valuable objects could challenge the assumption that Bronze Age societies were ruled only by men. Researchers who have previously held this belief may concede that women also held leadership roles, acknowledging new evidence. The other choices don't fit this context. Question 5. D. Latent The accessory spleen in baleen whales may not have a function that is immediately obvious. It is hypothesized that it supports diving mechanisms, suggesting it's latent, meaning it may have a hidden or not yet understood function. The other words do not convey this idea as clearly. Question 6. C. Overshadowed by state taxes are less influential than other factors, such as employment opportunities or climate, when people decide to move interstate. Overshadowed by means that state taxes are less important compared to these other considerations, which fits the context. Question 7. B. Tenuous. The author's claim about Neanderthals and Homo sapiens is described as weak or tenuous because it doesn't take into account recent archaeological discoveries. Tenuous suggests that the argument is not strong or well supported. The other options don't convey this lack of strength. Question 8. D. To encourage a child to embrace the experiences life will offer. Text in benediction conveys a sense of hope and encouragement for a child to go forward in life, embracing its challenges and opportunities. The other options focus too much on struggles or accomplishments, which are not the central theme of this passage. Question 9. D. It elaborates on an aspect of the maple trees that the women evaluate. The underlined sentence highlights how the women test the trees and assess the sap's flow, an important step in the maple syrup harvesting process. This matches the idea of the women evaluating the trees to determine when they can harvest sap. Question 10a. By arguing that it is based on a misconception about phytoplankton species competing with one another, Barenfeld and colleagues argue that the competition among phytoplankton may be less direct than previously thought, due to the organism's tiny size and distance from each other. This challenges the conventional wisdom that phytoplankton species compete fiercely for resources. Question 11a. Because Mars and Earth have different atmospheric conditions, a helicopter designed for Earth wouldn't work on Mars because Mars has only 1% of the atmospheric density of Earth. This means it cannot provide enough resistance for the helicopter blades to generate lift, making atmospheric conditions the key factor. Question 12a. Even though there have been some changes in their role, Jalis continue to preserve their community's histories despite changes due to technology. Jalis still play a key role in preserving the history and stories of their communities. The other options either focus too much on specific roles or technology, not on the main idea of preserving history. Question 13. Researchers have obtained the most definitive evidence to date of the existence of the Wigner crystal. The main idea is that researchers have captured an image of the Wigner crystal, providing the first visual proof of its existence, making it the definitive evidence for the crystal's existence. Question 14d. The average number of department leaders reporting directly to their CEO rose over the 3 periods studied. The researchers found that the number of department leaders reporting to CEOs increased over the years, which supports their conclusion about CEOs connecting with more departments. Question 15c. At several sites not included in the study, eelgrass meadows' health correlates negatively with the length of residence and size of otter populations. If eelgrass meadows are healthier where otters have been present for a long time, but their health declines with smaller or newer otter populations, it would contradict the idea that otter damage helps eelgrass thrive. This would undermine Foster's hypothesis. Question 16b. Risk misrepresenting the full range of Zelda's contributions to literature. Scott Fitzgerald's writings were influenced by Zelda, but recognizing her only as an influence on his work ignores her own contributions as a writer. The other options don't focus on this misrepresentation. Question 17b. Researchers should not assume that an innate attraction to face-like stimuli is necessarily an adaptation related to social interaction or parental care. The study shows that tortoises, which do not engage in parental care, are also attracted to face-like stimuli, suggesting that this attraction may not be linked to social behavior, as previously assumed. Question 18. While its content largely predates the invasion, Cantares Mexicanos also contains additions made after the invasion. The references to Spanish customs and beliefs in Cantares Mexicanos suggest that parts of the collection may have been added or modified after the Spanish invasion, making the inclusion of such references logical. Question 19. In this study, researchers failed to control for the physical difficulty of the tasks used to evaluate cognitive abilities, which could have skewed the results. Tasks requiring little dexterity were judged by the same criteria as tasks that were physically demanding, which may have affected how the monkeys were assessed. This issue means the results could misleadingly suggest that there are cognitive differences among the monkeys when, in fact, these differences may be due to the varying difficulty of the tasks. The cognitive ability of a monkey should ideally be judged based on tasks of similar difficulty to ensure an accurate evaluation. Therefore, the most logical completion is that the results could suggest that differences exist, even though they may not actually exist. The correct answer is, could suggest that there are differences in cognitive ability among the monkeys, even though such differences may not actually exist. Question 20. The text is discussing the dormant state of embryos in African turquoise killifish eggs when water is scarce. The correct verb form here needs to be in the present tense to align with the general scientific description of how these embryos behave. Enter is the correct choice as it matches the subject and structure of the sentence. The sentence would thus indicate the action that occurs when the embryos enter diapause. Enter is the correct form here because it describes an ongoing action. The correct answer is enter question 21. This sentence is describing a historical development where the Association of Southeast Asian Nations ASEAN was formed and later expanded its membership. The correct verb tense needs to indicate an action that occurred in the past before the end of the 1990s. So, had doubled is the best choice to show that this expansion had already taken place by that time. The past perfect tense is used to describe actions completed before a specific point in the past. The correct answer is B. Had doubled. Question 22. Trimethylamine N-oxide TMAO is mentioned as a chemical that helps retain the configuration of proteins in deep-sea fish. The correct punctuation choice is one that maintains the flow of the sentence and links TMAO with the idea in the previous clause. The comma after configurations ensures clarity, separating the description of the protein's configuration from the introduction of TMAO. The comma is needed for readability and correct structure. The correct answer is C. Configurations. Meme question 23. The text refers to the character Linda experiencing a form of synesthesia, where words evoke tastes. The correct verb tense should be present tense to describe her ongoing experience. Experiences is the most suitable verb form because it is consistent with the continuous nature of the action being described. The present tense here emphasizes the habitual or current experience of the character. The correct answer is C. Experience. Question 24. This sentence discusses an inventor's creation of a flexible straw by inserting a screw and binding the straw tightly. The correct choice needs to reflect possessive forms for both the screw and its threads. Screws threads correctly uses a possessive apostrophe to indicate that the threads belong to the screw. The possessive form is necessary here to show ownership and clarify that it is the threads of the screw that are being discussed. The correct answer is C. Screws threads. Question 25. The sentence discusses how Candace Wade analyzes the upper classes in The House of Mirth in relation to materialism. The correct punctuation choice links the term materialism to its subsequent explanation and requires a comma after the word materialism to separate it from the following clause. This maintains the sentence's flow and structure in standard English. The correct answer is C. Materialism. Question 26. The sentence discusses how the golden orb weaver spider does not appear to use camouflage to capture its prey, but research has shown that its coloration may actually be an attractive feature. The comma before rather ensures clarity by separating the contrasting clauses. This structure helps readers understand that the spider's appearance is not a camouflage strategy, but may serve another purpose. The correct answer is a prey, rather. Question 27. This sentence describes the movement of rocks in Death Valley National Park, marking their migration. The correct form of the possessive is playas sediment, as it refers to the sediment of a single playa lakebed. This possessive form is needed to indicate that the sediment belongs to the playa. The correct answer is B. Playas sediment mark the rocks. Question 28. This sentence introduces a novel by Helen Iemi. The punctuation used here, specifically the comma after gingerbread, is necessary to separate the title from the continuation of the sentence. The correct structure adheres to the rules for separating clauses and providing clarity for the reader. The correct answer is B. Gingerbread. Question 29. The student wants to emphasize the advantage of microprobes over rovers. The most effective choice uses the note about microprobes being small and able to access areas that are not accessible to rovers. This choice directly connects the size of microprobes to their ability to explore these inaccessible areas, highlighting their advantage. The correct answer is B. Microprobes, which weigh as little as 50 milligrams, could explore areas of Mars that are inaccessible to NASA's heavy-wheeled rovers. Question 30. This sentence is meant to introduce the novel Paradise by Abdulrazak Gurnah. The correct choice presents a concise and informative statement that introduces both the author and his praised novel, aligning well with the purpose of the student's notes. The choice provides the relevant context while also emphasizing the historical aspect of the novel. The correct answer is B. Many readers have singled out Abdulrazak Gurnah's 1994 book Paradise, a historical novel about colonial East Africa, for praise. Question 31. The sentence asks for a comparison of the population sizes of Ulaanbaatar and Hanoi. The best choice emphasizes the relative population sizes of the two capitals while also pointing out that Ulaanbaatar represents a larger percentage of its country's population. This is the most informative and effective choice to highlight the population dynamics. The correct answer is C. Even though Hanoi population 7,781,631 is larger than Ulaanbaatar population 907,802, Ulaanbaatar accounts for more of its country's population. Question 32. The student's goal is to explain how the House of Wisdom preserved the world's knowledge. The best choice is one that highlights the collection and creation of paper versions of ancient and contemporary texts in Arabic for preservation. This directly addresses the key method of preservation. The correct answer is D. The House of Wisdom collected writings from different countries and created paper versions in Arabic to be studied and shared. Question 33. The student is looking to generalize about the type of study conducted by Glickman, Brown, and Song. The most effective choice mentions the use of statistical methods in the context of authorship questions, which ties directly to the analysis conducted by the researchers. This choice generalizes the study's focus while supporting the use of statistical methods. The correct answer is D. Researchers have used statistical methods to address questions of authorship within the field of music.